But that leads us to our next topic, Brandon, about who this could affect after this trade has happened.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, the Patriots are left out in the cold, especially after this trade, feeling like that too. I know when I was watching TV the other day and the headline popped up that Stafford said he was willing to go to any team but the Patriots, I was like, that's a low blow. That hurts. And not from Stafford. I'm just saying that's a low blow to the organization for the Patriots because now it's saying, well, who does want to come here? And immediately I texted my brother and I said, all right, we're in trouble. We're in trouble now because if players don't want to come here, then we're really in trouble. We need to acquire players. And if the Patriots are left out in the cold another year for a quarterback and can't acquire one of these guys in an all-time epic year of quarterbacks being on the market and being, trade bait, if we can't acquire one of them, I think we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit just because, I initially thought the same thing you did when I saw that. I'm like, Stafford doesn't want to come to the Patriots. That's never been the case before with free agents. I think the one thing that we got to remember is there are a couple of factors here. One, Matt Patricia's now back on the Patriots. So you got to, he certainly, he just had a miserable time with Patricia. Doesn't want to even be anywhere near him, even though I don't think Patricia will be coaching him at all. He'd probably barely see him. The second thing is the Patriots don't have anybody to throw. So why would Stafford want to come here after leaving, at least in Detroit? He's got Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay, although those guys are free agents this upcoming season. But, he had some weapons in Detroit. He doesn't want to come to a place where he's not going to have guys to throw to. And then third of all, from what I understand, he's from Texas. He went to Georgia in college. He doesn't want to come to a cold weather city where you're not playing in a dome. At least in Detroit, you had 9 games guaranteed every year in a dome because you play in the same division as Minnesota. So you had 9 games a year in a dome where you come to the AFC East. You're playing in Buffalo. You're playing against the Jets in New York, and then you have 8 home games guaranteed in Foxborough. Now, not all of them are cold, obviously. The fall in Foxborough, as we know, is awesome. But later on in November and January, in December, and if you're playing in the playoffs in January, it gets really cold. He wanted to go to L.A. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can take out of this, too. And then you have Brandon Cooks coming out, I think it was yesterday, it might have been today, and saying, New England's a fun play, not a fun place to play, but a good place to play. He had no problem backing up the Patriots, which I thought was interesting. Brandon Cooks came here. He was traded for by the Patriots, played 1 year. A lot of people were disappointed in him. I actually thought he played really well that 1 year with the Pats, even though he wasn't an elite receiver. He was a very good receiver, had almost 80 catches, over 1,000 yards, touchdowns, and so forth. And then it was traded away again. So they didn't necessarily coddle him or really do anything where you would think that he would love playing for the Pats. But Cooks just came out and backed him up, backed up the Pats. So I still think they're going to be able to get guys. I do think that the market's shrinking, though, and it depends on what they want to do. I think what they're going to end up doing is getting sort of like a bridge stopgap quarterback, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, who can just come in right away and run their offense the way that he knows how to, or a David Carr or a Marcus Mariota. I think those are some of the guys that they could look at who might be able to come in, run the offense, and they might draft a kid either this year or maybe in the second round this year, or a quarterback next year in the first round, and then approach the quarterback position that way. Get a veteran who can be there for a couple of years, and also get the young guy that you can develop and become the starter a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, I've got 2 things. I think if this continues, we're going to have the conversation of Belichick's time ending in New England. If it continues, I'm saying. That'll definitely be a conversation we have to have. But I think it's going to be one of those things where I think they're probably better off getting a stopgap QB right now, right? And kind of just filling in because there are no weapons. You got to acquire maybe some weapons and acquire a QB. And I think that's going to kind of be hard in the market right now. I'd love to see them get Mariota, a young quarterback. He's still young enough that you could develop him. He's a quarterback that can get out and move the pocket, can use his legs, kind of like Cam Newton was just doing in our offense, So I think McDaniels would love to have a guy like Mariota. But I think the rumors I've been hearing, too, is that, you might see Fitzmagic. You might see Fitzmagic with his beard come in here, and that's obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick come in here and sling it around. And I wouldn't be against that, honestly. And especially if we're looking for a stopgap QB, he tends to have these great moments in the NFL where he comes in on a different team and plays great. He has some bad moments, but he tends to play lights out at times. He generates excitement with, obviously, the fans and his teammates. I hear he's a great teammate guy, a great locker room guy. So I wouldn't be against Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in. But I'd like to see them make a play. I would love to see them make a play in the draft for a QB of the future. But I'm not sure there's going to be one out there. I know we're possibly picking around 15th, right?
Yep.
So it's whether or not is that something that you can dangle out there for somebody that's currently on the market, or is there any QB that's in college right now that's worth taking with that first pick? If I'm the Patriots, I take a skill player with that first pick because I need one. I need some weapons around my quarterback, and I think even with some weapons, I think a Marcus Mariota or Ryan Fitzpatrick could have a great season.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick I think would work great. I mean, one thing that we talk about the draft and drafting a quarterback as opposed to getting a stopgap guy, if they're going to have to go up and get a quarterback if they want to draft a quarterback in the first round. Jeff Howe of The Athletic wrote a great article about how you really don't get an elite quarterback in the first round unless you're drafting at number 12 or earlier. So in 12, 11, 10, and so forth, all the way down the line. There's certainly been exceptions. There's certainly been later round quarterbacks. But if you want to look at the percentages of quarterbacks that have been solid starters to Pro Bowlers to all-time greats, that's where you really need to draft a quarterback. Over the last 20 years, that's been the sweet spot is, 12 and sooner. And I don't think the Pats are going to be able to get there. I don't think they want to trade up that much draft capital to go from 15 to 12. To move up in the first round, it's really hard. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think what they're going to end up doing, like you said, they'll pick the best player available at 15, get a stopgap quarterback, and then maybe draft a guy in the second round or the third round. I know a guy like Jamie Newman from Wake Forest, the Pats are a fan of. They might take him second and third round, just see what he can do. If they take a Waddle or somebody like that at 15. So that'll be interesting.